Why would a bride look sad on her wedding day, especially when surrounded by lavish decorations and a festive crowd? This was the question on the minds of the few who noticed Emma's somber expression amid the opulence of the grand ballroom, where crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over ornate tables laden with gourmet delights. The wedding, set in one of the city's most prestigious venues, was nothing short of a fairy tale. Or so it seemed. Emma, draped in a flowing designer gown that accentuated her delicate frame, should have been the epitome of a radiant bride. Instead, her eyes were tinged with melancholy, her smiles forced, barely touching the corners of her lips. As the evening progressed, the stark contrast between the celebratory atmosphere and Emma's subdued demeanor grew more pronounced. Her husband, Liam, mingled among high-profile guests, his laughter echoing across the room, his face flushed from champagne and compliments. Meanwhile, Emma found herself increasingly isolated, her discomfort exacerbated by the tight corset squeezing against her pregnant belly. Yes, she was expecting, and not just one child, but triplets. Her mother-in-law, Mrs. Blackwell, the matriarch of the Blackwell estate, fluttered around the room like a regal butterfly, her laughter resonant and her gestures grand. She was in her element, basking in the admiration of her social circle, completely oblivious or indifferent to her daughter-in-law's plight. Emma had hoped for a simple ceremony, something intimate and genuine, before her pregnancy became too evident. However, Mrs. Blackwell had other plans, postponing the wedding repeatedly under various pretexts. Now, as Emma navigated through a sea of strangers who viewed her with thinly veiled curiosity, the weight of her isolation bore down on her. She had married into a world that was vastly different from her own, a world where appearances mattered more than reality. Sitting at a table adorned with roses and silken cloths, Emma's mind wandered back to her modest upbringing, her years spent in an orphanage, where every meal was a blessing and every small kindness a miracle. Tonight, the opulence felt overwhelming, suffocating. She missed the simplicity of her past, and as she glanced at Liam, laughing heartily among friends who were strangers to her, she couldn't help but wonder if he too missed the simplicity of their earlier days, when love seemed enough. As the orchestra swelled into a crescendo and the guests rose in a toast, Emma felt a sharp pain in her back. She grimaced, clutching the table for support, her other hand resting on her swollen belly. At that moment, she realized that this was not her fairy tale. This was a spectacle, a show put on for the benefit of others, orchestrated by a woman who saw her not as a daughter, but as an inconvenient truth that needed to be dressed up in finery and paraded before the masses. In the midst of her reverie, Emma's gaze met Mrs. Blackwell's across the room. Her mother-in-law smiled, a perfectly crafted smile that never reached her eyes. Emma looked away, feeling the first sting of tears. She excused herself, her movements slow and measured to avoid drawing attention. As she made her way to the sanctuary of the ladies' room, the echo of her own heartbeat sounded like a distant drum, a somber reminder that this was just the beginning of her journey into the Blackwell family. As Emma pushed through the ornate doors of the ladies' room, the cacophony of the wedding party faded into a muffled hum, replaced by the echoing solitude of her own heavy breaths. Here, in the privacy of gilded mirrors and floral-scented soaps, Emma allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. The reflection staring back at her bore little resemblance to the joyous bride she was supposed to embody. Her face was pale, her eyes rimmed with the redness of suppressed tears. Sinking into a velvet-lined armchair, she allowed the stiff layers of her dress to fan out around her. The dress, a masterpiece of silk and lace, had been chosen by Mrs. Blackwell, who insisted it exemplified the pinnacle of bridal elegance. Yet, to Emma, it felt like a beautiful prison, constraining her at every turn, pressing down on her swollen abdomen where her triplets grew, oblivious to their mother's discomfort. Her mind wandered to the early days of her relationship with Liam, days filled with laughter and long conversations under the stars. Those memories seemed like fragments of a different life, one where she was not merely an accessory in someone else's grand design. Now, amidst the grandeur of her wedding, she felt more disconnected than ever, not only from Liam, but from herself. A soft knock at the door jarred Emma from her thoughts. "Miss, are you all right?" The concerned voice of a young waitress drifted through the door. Emma straightened, wiping away the traces of her tears, and reassured the girl that she would be out shortly. Alone again, she stood and faced her reflection, practicing the smile she would need to wear for the remainder of the evening. It was a mask, much like the one Mrs. Blackwell wore so effortlessly. As she prepared to rejoin the celebration, a pang of loneliness gripped her. She was surrounded by people yet felt utterly isolated. She couldn't help but think about her parents, whom she had never known, and how different her life might have been if they had been there to guide and support her. Instead, she was navigating this opulent world alone, with a husband who seemed increasingly like a stranger, and a formidable mother-in-law who orchestrated every aspect of her life. Returning to the ballroom, Emma was greeted by the sight of Liam, slightly inebriated, laughing boisterously with a group of well-dressed guests. Their eyes met briefly, and for a fleeting moment, she saw a glimmer of the man she had fallen in love with, but as quickly as it appeared, it was gone, replaced by the distant, carefree persona he adopted in the presence of others. Throughout the evening, Emma felt an acute sense of performative duty, smiling at jokes she didn't find funny, engaging in small talk that felt shallow and rehearsed. The festivities around her blurred into a spectacle of excess, each toast and cheer a reminder of the role she was expected to play. Later, when the orchestra played a slow melody, Liam approached her for a dance. As he led her to the dance floor, Emma tried to find comfort in his familiar touch, but the magic of their early days seemed lost in the orchestrated chaos of their wedding. As they danced, Liam's focus drifted over her shoulder, scanning the room, his attention caught by anyone but her. When the dance ended, Liam whisked away to entertain some distant relatives, leaving Emma standing alone amidst the swirling crowd. She felt a stark disconnection, her heart aching for something real and true amidst the facade. It was then that the enormity of her situation truly settled in. She was married to a man who was still very much a boy, influenced entirely by his domineering mother, and she was about to bring 3 new lives into this complex web of wealth and expectation. The night drew to a close with laughter and applause, but for Emma, the silence in her heart was deafening. As the guests departed and the lights dimmed, she wondered how many more smiles she would have to fake, and how many more dances she would have to endure, feeling like a stranger in her own life. As the last of the guests filtered out of the grand ballroom, leaving behind a trail of laughter and the faint scent of expensive perfume, Emma found herself standing in the shadow of the opulent curtains that framed the expansive windows. The moon cast a pale light over the now empty room, the remnants of the celebration a stark contrast to the solitude that enveloped her. She felt a profound sense of disconnection, not just from the guests and the gaiety, but from Liam, who had become increasingly absorbed in his own world, a world dictated by his mother's ambitions and societal expectations. As she watched a team of staff efficiently clearing the tables, Emma's thoughts wandered to the moments during the dance with Liam. His distant gaze, his perfunctory smile, it was as if he were dancing with a stranger. This wasn't the intimacy she had dreamt of. It was a performance, a carefully choreographed play meant to impress an audience, not to celebrate a union of hearts. The realization was sharp, like a cold wind that slices through a warm day, chilling and unexpected. Retreating to a quiet corner, Emma allowed herself to reflect on the events that had led to this point. Her relationship with Liam had started as a whirlwind romance. He was the charming heir to the Blackwell fortune, a man who seemed to step right out of the pages of a romance novel. But as their relationship progressed, the reality of their differences became apparent. Where Emma valued simplicity and sincerity, Liam and his family celebrated opulence and tradition. Each decision, each event, was a testament to their status, a display of wealth and power that Emma found increasingly alienating. Tonight, her wedding night, should have been the culmination of their love, yet it felt more like a coronation for Liam, orchestrated by Mrs. Blackwell, who presided over the festivities with a queen's authority. Emma realized that her role was not as a partner to Liam, but as a piece in a larger game, one played by his mother to secure her family's legacy. The sting of isolation was acute as she considered her future, particularly with the impending arrival of their triplets. Would her children feel this same cold grandeur, this same golden isolation? The thought was unbearable. Emma envisioned teaching her children about love, about the value of kindness and the strength of simplicity, values that seemed so distant from the world in which they would grow up. Determined not to let the night end on a note of despair, Emma resolved to find Liam and express her feelings, to seek some reassurance that they could find a path that embraced both their worlds. She found him outside on the terrace, speaking animatedly on his phone, likely dealing with some business that couldn't wait until after their wedding day. Waiting for him to finish, she admired the resilience of the night sky, its stars twinkling persistently, despite the city lights that fought to drown them out. When Liam finally turned to her, his expression softened. "Emma, I didn't see you there. Everything okay?" His voice held a hint of concern, but his eyes were tired, distracted. "Liam, we need to talk about us, about how we're going to make this work with the babies on the way," Emma began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. Liam looked taken aback. "Sure, but it's been a long day. Maybe we should—" "No, it needs to be now," Emma interrupted, her determination clear. "I feel lost in all this, Liam. This isn't the life I envisioned for us, for our children. I want to make sure we're building a future where they, and we, can be happy." Liam listened, his face a mask of concern that slowly morphed into understanding. This was the first of many conversations they would need to have, Emma realized, each one a step towards bridging the gap between their worlds. As they talked, the moon continued its silent arc across the sky, a witness to the unfolding drama of human hopes and fears, a reminder that even in the face of daunting challenges, there was always a light that guided the way forward. Emma's journey had humble beginnings, a stark contrast to the world she found herself entangled in. Born to unknown parents and left at the doorstep of St. Mary's Orphanage, she grew up knowing little of the world beyond its iron gates and high walls. The orphanage, located in a secluded part of the city, was both her sanctuary and her prison. It was a world filled with other children like her, lost, abandoned, seeking scraps of love in the smiles of overworked caretakers. From a young age, Emma learned to find solace in books. They were her escape, her windows to places and lives she could only imagine. The stories she read fueled her dreams of a different life, one filled with adventure and love, far from the stark reality of her daily existence. Despite the rigid routine of the orphanage, wake up, attend classes, eat meals, repeat, Emma's mind wandered to the far-off lands of her novels, where princesses and knights fought for justice and love conquered all. Her academic prowess didn't go unnoticed. Emma's teachers saw potential in her, a bright spark that could flourish under the right conditions. They encouraged her, offering her extra books and sometimes personal stories of their own struggles and triumphs. Through these interactions, Emma came to understand the power of perseverance and the importance of dreaming big. As she grew older, Emma's ambitions solidified. She wanted to become a doctor, to help people in a way that she felt meaningful. She studied tirelessly, knowing that her only chance out of the orphanage lay in earning a scholarship for college. Her hard work paid off when she was awarded a full ride to a prestigious university. It was a moment of profound triumph and deep reflection. She was leaving the only home she had ever known, stepping into a world that was unfamiliar and intimidating. University life was a culture shock for Emma, surrounded by peers who had come from loving homes, who spoke of family holidays and shared childhood memories. Emma felt her outsider status more acutely than ever. However, she refused to be defined by her past. She threw herself into her studies, her determination fueled by the knowledge that she had no safety net to fall back on. It was during her second year of medical school that she met Liam. He was volunteering at a health fair, organized by the university, and their first conversation sparked a connection that felt like a stroke of fate. Liam was charmed by her intelligence and her passion for medicine, and Emma was drawn to his kindness and genuine interest in her dreams. Their relationship blossomed quickly, filled with promises of a future together. Yet, as Emma stood now in the grandeur of the Blackwell estate, she realized how much she had compromised, how much of herself she had muted to fit into Liam's world. The contrast between her past and present was overwhelming, and she felt a deep longing to reconnect with the part of herself that had dreamt of saving lives, not attending lavish parties. Reflecting on her journey, Emma knew she had the strength to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had overcome the loneliness of the orphanage, the culture shock of university, and she would navigate the complexities of her new life with the same resilience. Her past had taught her the value of authenticity and the importance of forging one's own path, lessons she planned to pass down to her children. As the night deepened and the conversation with Liam reached a pause, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would find a way to blend her past and present, to ensure her children knew the value of simplicity and the power of dreams. This resolve filled her with a quiet confidence, a belief that no matter the opulence that surrounded her, she could remain true to the values that had shaped her. When Emma first met Liam at the university health fair, she hadn't anticipated that a casual conversation about health initiatives could lead to a life-altering romance. Liam had been there as part of his family's foundation work, an obligation he fulfilled with a mix of genuine interest and familial duty. For Emma, the fair was an opportunity to apply her medical knowledge and perhaps make a meaningful impact, even in a small way. Their initial conversation was effortless. Liam was intrigued by Emma's passion for healthcare and her vision for a future where access to medical care was not dictated by socioeconomic status. Emma, in turn, found Liam's interest in her work refreshing. Unlike her classmates, whose backgrounds often made them oblivious to the struggles she had faced, Liam seemed genuinely curious about her opinions and experiences. As their relationship developed, their dates often consisted of long walks around campus, where they discussed everything from medical ethics to their favorite books. Emma introduced Liam to the world of literature she loved, where heroes fought for justice, and love was a driving force of change. Liam shared stories of his travels, of the different cultures he had encountered, and the complexities of living a life in the public eye. For Emma, these moments were a glimpse into a world vastly different from her own, yet Liam's down-to-earth nature made these differences seem surmountable. His openness about the pressures of his life, of living up to a family legacy he hadn't chosen, made her feel closer to him. He wasn't just the wealthy heir. He was also a person grappling with his own set of challenges. Liam was equally captivated by Emma. Her resilience, her ability to rise above her challenging past, and her dedication to her future were qualities he admired deeply. He saw in her a strength and a purity of spirit that were rare. She wasn't swayed by his wealth or his family's status, and that authenticity drew him to her even more. Their connection deepened into love, a love that felt like the merging of two different worlds. Liam proposed to Emma on a crisp autumn evening, under a sky littered with stars, at the very spot on campus where they had first met. It was romantic and heartfelt, with Liam expressing his desire to build a future with her, one where they could both pursue their dreams and support each other. Emma said yes, filled with a mixture of joy and apprehension. She loved Liam, but she also knew that marrying him meant entering a life that was unfamiliar and intimidating. The proposal was a promise of partnership, but as Emma would soon learn, the realities of marrying into the Blackwell family involved more compromises and adjustments than she had anticipated. As they planned their wedding, the differences in their backgrounds became more pronounced. Mrs. Blackwell's involvement in the wedding planning was extensive, dictating details Emma found trivial or ostentatious. Every aspect of the wedding had to be grandiose, a public statement of the Blackwell family's status and wealth. Emma's simpler tastes and desire for a more intimate celebration were often overridden, and she found herself acquiescing to keep the peace. Through these challenges, the strength of Emma and Liam's relationship was tested. Emma struggled with feeling like an outsider, not only in social settings, but in her relationship with Liam. The effortless understanding they once shared seemed strained under the weight of family expectations and societal pressures. Despite these growing pains, their love endured. Emma clung to the moments that reminded her of why she had fallen in love with Liam. His kindness, his laughter, and the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the world. These moments were her anchor, giving her hope that amidst the lavishness and complexity of their lives, the simplicity of their love could still flourish. As Emma and Liam's wedding approached, another life-changing event loomed on the horizon. During a routine visit to the doctor for what Emma thought was a persistent bout of the flu, she received news that would alter their lives forever. She was pregnant. The surprise deepened when further tests revealed she wasn't carrying one baby, but triplets. The news was overwhelming, a mixture of joy and fear swirling in Emma's heart. Liam's reaction to the news of the triplets was a complex tapestry of emotions. On one hand, he was overjoyed, envisioning a future with Emma and their children, a tangible symbol of their love. On the other, he was acutely aware of the immense responsibility that now rested on their shoulders. The prospect of becoming a father to 3 children at once was daunting, especially considering the pressures of his family's expectations. The couple faced the news together in their apartment one evening, the city lights casting a soft glow through the windows. Emma, despite the initial shock, felt a profound connection to the new lives growing inside her. She touched her abdomen, whispering words of love and promise, while Liam sat beside her, his hand over hers, a silent vow of his commitment and support. The reality of Emma's pregnancy brought new challenges to their relationship. Liam's protective instincts intensified, often manifesting as overcautiousness about her activities and health. Emma appreciated his concern, but also felt a need for independence and space to experience her pregnancy on her own terms. This delicate balance of care and independence became a recurring theme in their interactions, as they navigated the complexities of preparing for parenthood under public scrutiny. Mrs. Blackwell's involvement escalated with the news of the triplets. She viewed the upcoming births as not just an addition to the family, but as an opportunity to cement the Blackwell legacy. Her plans for the nursery, the baby clothes, and even the medical care were grandiose and meticulously detailed. Every aspect of the pregnancy and birth was to be managed to ensure the Blackwell name was associated with prosperity and perfection. However, Emma felt increasingly like a vessel for the Blackwell heirs, rather than a mother-to-be, with her own hopes and fears for her children. Her discussions with Liam about wanting a more personal and less orchestrated pregnancy experience often ended in assurances that he would speak to his mother, yet little changed. Emma's frustration grew as her body and her pregnancy became subjects of public interest and familial politics. During a particularly overwhelming baby shower organized by Mrs. Blackwell, Emma found herself cornered by well-wishers and advice givers, each conversation reminding her how public her private life had become. She escaped to the garden, seeking a few moments of solitude, where Liam found her. It was then that they had one of their most honest conversations. "Liam, I know your mother means well, but I'm feeling overwhelmed," Emma confessed, her voice tinged with desperation. "This is our pregnancy, our children, not a public spectacle." Liam, seeing her distress, felt a surge of protectiveness. I know, he replied, his tone gentle. "I'll talk to her, Emma. We'll set some boundaries. This is about us, our family." The promise was sincere, and in the weeks that followed, Liam took a more assertive role in mediating between Emma and his mother. Gradually, Mrs. Blackwell's overt influence waned, allowing Emma and Liam to make more decisions independently. This shift marked a turning point in Emma's integration into the Blackwell family, as she and Liam began to define the contours of their family life on their own terms. The news of the triplets had settled into Emma and Liam's life, bringing with it a mix of excitement and anxiety. As Emma's belly grew, so did her anticipation and concern about the logistics and challenges of raising 3 babies simultaneously. The reality of multiple births was daunting, but also filled with moments of wonder and joy, particularly during the ultrasound sessions when they could see their babies moving and growing. Liam, once overwhelmed by the idea, found himself increasingly involved in the preparations. He read books on parenting multiples, reached out to online communities for advice, and ensured that Emma had the best care possible. His transformation from a worried partner to a proactive father-to-be was noticeable, and it brought Emma immense comfort. However, as the pregnancy progressed, the physical toll on Emma became more evident. She experienced frequent backaches, fatigue, and the usual discomforts of pregnancy, all magnified by the presence of 3 growing infants. The couple's quiet evenings often included discussions about the best strategies for sleep schedules, feeding, and balancing their careers with their new responsibilities. One of the more poignant moments came when they decided to decorate the nursery. Emma wanted a space that felt personal and loving. Rejecting the grandiose designs proposed by Mrs. Blackwell, Emma chose a theme of clouds and stars, aiming to create a peaceful sky-like environment for the triplets. Liam, supportive of her choices, helped paint the nursery himself, adding personal touches like a hand-painted mural of the night sky, complete with constellations. As the due date approached, the couple attended birthing classes tailored for parents expecting multiples. These classes were an eye-opener, providing them with the practical skills and confidence they needed to handle the unique challenges ahead. They learned about the different types of deliveries, how to coordinate feeding for multiple babies, and the importance of self-care for Emma post-birth. The bond between Emma and Liam deepened during these months. Pregnancy had brought them closer, knitting their lives together in new and profound ways. They shared hopes and fears, dreams for their children's futures, and laughter over the quirky names Mrs. Blackwell suggested, none of which they actually chose. In the final weeks before the birth, anxiety and excitement peaked. They prepared go bags for the hospital, double-checked the installation of car seats, and made final adjustments to the nursery. Emma, despite the discomfort, felt a surge of maternal instinct and love whenever she felt the baby's kick or shift inside her. The birth itself was a carefully orchestrated affair, with a medical team experienced in multiple births. Emma opted for a C-section, a decision supported by her doctors considering the positions of the babies. The procedure was scheduled 2 weeks before her due date to avoid any complications. On the day of the birth, the hospital room was quiet with anticipation. Liam stayed by Emma's side, holding her hand, whispering words of encouragement as the medical team prepared for the surgery. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful, each member of the team moving with precision and care. The moment the babies were born was transformative, the room filled with the sounds of 3 distinct cries, each a powerful affirmation of life. Emma, exhausted but elated, tears streaming down her face, was the first to hear their voices. Liam, equally overwhelmed, watched in awe as the nurses wrapped their newborns in soft blankets and brought them over for their first family cuddle. Holding their children for the first time, Emma and Liam felt a rush of love and responsibility. They were parents now, guardians of 3 unique lives, each a blend of their love and heritage. It was a moment of profound joy and realization of the new journey that lay ahead of them. After the exhilaration of the triplets' birth began to settle, Emma and Liam faced the inevitable challenge of introducing their new family to the broader Blackwell clan. While Liam's immediate reaction was one of boundless pride and joy, he was acutely aware of the underlying tensions that might arise from his family, especially his mother, Mrs. Blackwell, who had very particular ideas about how things should be done in her family. The day of the introduction was meticulously planned by Mrs. Blackwell at the Blackwell estate, a sprawling manor that had been in the family for generations. Emma felt a flutter of nervousness as they drove up the long, winding driveway, the estate looming large and imposing ahead of them. The manor was immaculate, every detail showcasing the wealth and status of the Blackwell family. As they entered the grand foyer, the cold, echoing space did little to ease Emma's nerves. The reception was grandiose, with family members gathered in the opulent living room, a fire crackling in the massive fireplace despite it being barely cold outside. The room was filled with antiques and portraits of Blackwells going back centuries, each face looking down with an expression that mirrored Mrs. Blackwell's usual stern demeanor. Mrs. Blackwell greeted them with a tight smile, her eyes immediately moving to the triplets nestled in their carriers. "Let me see my grandchildren," she stated, more than asked, stepping forward with an air of entitlement that made Emma bristle. Despite her discomfort, Emma stepped aside, allowing Mrs. Blackwell to peer at the sleeping infants. "They are quite beautiful," Mrs. Blackwell commented, her voice softening slightly as she touched a tiny hand. "They have the Blackwell eyes." It was a small concession from a woman not given to warm displays of affection, and it momentarily lightened the atmosphere. However, as other relatives came forward to view the babies, the undercurrents of judgment about Emma's suitability as a Blackwell matriarch became apparent. Whispered conversations filled the gaps between overzealous congratulations, with subtle jabs about Emma's background and her capability to uphold the family's standards. One of the aunts, a tall woman with sharp features that mirrored Mrs. Blackwell's, leaned in too close and whispered, "It's a big responsibility, raising future Blackwells, especially coming from where you do." The implication was clear, and Emma felt a flush of anger rise to her cheeks. Liam, noticing Emma's discomfort, quickly intervened. "Emma is an incredible mother already," he stated firmly, placing an arm around her shoulders. "We're both learning, but there's no one better suited to be the mother of my children." His support was immediate and unwavering, a public affirmation that Emma was not alone in this. As the afternoon wore on, the formality of the event started to give way to a more relaxed atmosphere, largely thanks to Liam's efforts to bridge the gap between Emma and his relatives. He kept close, facilitated conversations, and made sure Emma never felt isolated. Despite the rocky start, the event ended on a positive note, with many family members warming up to Emma and expressing genuine interest in her thoughts on motherhood. Emma was relieved, yet aware that the road ahead would still be filled with challenges. She knew that her relationship with the Blackwell family would always require navigation, but with Liam by her side, she felt ready to face whatever might come. Adjusting to life under the scrutinizing eye of Mrs. Blackwell was a challenge for Emma, especially in the early days of motherhood. The Blackwells had insisted that Emma and Liam stay at the family estate for the first few months after the triplets were born, citing the need for support and the importance of tradition. While Liam saw this as a helpful gesture, Emma felt the walls of the grand mansion closing in, each opulent room a reminder of her in-laws' pervasive presence. The dynamics within the household were complex. Mrs. Blackwell, ever the matriarch, had her own ideas about how the babies should be cared for, often stepping over the boundaries Emma and Liam had hoped to establish. From the triplets' feeding schedule to the choice of their nursery decor, Mrs. Blackwell had an opinion on everything, and was not shy about expressing it. Emma tried to find solace in the small moments of privacy she could carve out in the nursery, which she had personally decorated against Mrs. Blackwell's grander tastes. This room became her sanctuary, a space where she could bond with her children away from the prying eyes and unsolicited advice. However, the real struggle lay in balancing her desire for autonomy with the need to maintain harmony in the household. Dinner conversations often turned into subtle battles of wills, with Mrs. Blackwell suggesting traditional parenting methods, while Emma advocated for more modern approaches. Liam, caught in the middle, did his best to support Emma's decisions, but the strain was evident. He hated conflict, especially within his family, and struggled to find a middle ground that would appease both his wife and his mother. As the weeks turned into months, Emma started to feel the toll of her compromised independence. Her confidence as a mother was constantly being undermined, not out of malice, but out of a deep-seated belief by Mrs. Blackwell that her experience was invaluable and should be the guiding principle. This relentless oversight left Emma second-guessing her instincts, which only added to her growing sense of isolation. One particularly tense evening, after Mrs. Blackwell had insisted on changing the baby's bedtime routine, something Emma had spent weeks perfecting, Emma reached her breaking point. After the family had retired for the night, she found herself in the nursery, tears of frustration streaming down her face, feeling more like a guest in her children's lives than their mother. Liam found her there, her distress palpable in the quiet sobs that filled the moonlit room. He sat beside her, his presence a silent question. Emma poured out her heart, expressing her feelings of suffocation and loss of control over her life and the lives of their children. Liam listened, his heart heavy with regret for not seeing the depth of her struggle sooner. "I'm sorry, Emma," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "We'll find our own place. It's time we lived as our family, on our terms." The decision to move out was not an easy one. It meant standing up to Mrs. Blackwell in ways they hadn't before. But the necessity of it, for the sake of their family's well-being, was clear. Over the next few days, they began the process of finding a home. a place where they could make their own rules, create their own traditions, and grow together without the overshadowing influence of the Blackwell legacy. The move, when it finally came, was both liberating and daunting. Emma felt a mix of relief and apprehension as they settled into their new home, a modest house that stood in stark contrast to the grandeur of the Blackwell estate. But as she arranged the triplets' nursery, feeling the peace of the space they had chosen together, she knew they had made the right decision. This was a new beginning, a chance to redefine their family on their own terms. While Emma and Liam had already married, their post-marital journey was far from the idyllic scenario Emma had once envisioned. Adjusting to their new home away from the overbearing scrutiny of the Blackwell estate brought its own set of challenges and revelations. The independence was refreshing, but it also exposed the cracks in their relationship that had been papered over by the constant distractions and pressures of living with Liam's family. In their own space, the couple had to confront their differing views on parenting, lifestyle, and even career priorities. Emma, who had always valued simplicity and direct communication, found herself often at odds with Liam, who was conditioned to consider the implications of family legacy and public appearance in almost every decision. The stress of these discussions sometimes overshadowed the joy of their newfound autonomy. Each disagreement seemed to underscore how different their upbringings were and how those differences shaped their expectations of family life. As they navigated these turbulent waters, the conversation often returned to their wedding, a grand event that had been more about Mrs. Blackwell's desires than their own. The wedding had been a lavish affair, attended by anyone who was anyone in Liam's social circle. Emma remembered feeling like a character in someone else's play, smiling and nodding through ceremonies and speeches that felt disconnected from the intimate celebration she had wanted. One evening, as they sat exhausted from a day of managing teething triplets and endless household chores, Emma brought up the idea of renewing their vows. "Liam," she started hesitantly, "do you ever think about our wedding day?" Liam looked up, surprise etching his features. "Sometimes." "Why?" "I was thinking, maybe we could renew our vows. Just us, the kids, and a few close friends. Something that feels like us, not a spectacle," Emma suggested, her voice soft but hopeful. Liam's initial surprise gave way to a thoughtful expression. "I like that idea," he admitted. "Our first wedding wasn't really what either of us wanted. It might be nice to do something that feels more authentic." The decision to renew their vows became a project that brought them closer together. Planning the ceremony became a joint endeavor that reflected their true tastes and preferences without outside influence. They chose a small chapel by the beach, a place that held special meaning for both of them, as it was where they had shared many significant conversations during their courtship. The day of the vow renewal was simple but beautiful. Emma wore a light, airy dress that was the antithesis of her original ornate wedding gown. Liam looked relaxed in a simple linen suit. The triplets, adorable in matching outfits, were a part of the ceremony, giggling and babbling as their parents reaffirmed their commitment to each other. This time, the vows they exchanged were deeply personal, written by each of them. Emma's words spoke of her appreciation for their growth as a couple and her hopes for the future, while Liam's vows acknowledged the challenges they had overcome and his commitment to being a partner who supports and cherishes her autonomy. As the sun set over the ocean, casting a warm glow on their small gathering, Emma and Liam felt a renewed sense of partnership. The ceremony was a reaffirmation of their love, but also of their commitment to navigating life together, respecting their differences, and building a future that honored both their dreams. The joy of the day lingered long after the ceremony, a gentle reminder of their capacity to adapt and grow together. It was a new chapter in their life, one that promised not just challenges, but also the joy of overcoming them together. After the renewal of their vows, Emma and Liam found a deeper understanding and respect for each other's values and aspirations. However, the demands of parenthood, especially with triplets, began to take a toll on their relationship in unexpected ways. As the children grew, each phase brought new challenges that tested their resilience and adaptability. Liam, while genuinely committed to his family, found himself increasingly drawn back into the demands of his career. The Blackwell family business, under his mother's insistence, required more of his attention, as he was being groomed to take over leadership roles. His absences, both physical and emotional, grew more frequent, leaving Emma to manage much of the daily responsibilities of caring for their children alone. This shift was gradual, but unmistakable. Emma noticed the change in Liam's behavior. His once enthusiastic participation in family activities was replaced by distracted, half-hearted engagements. He was physically present, but often retreated into his phone or emails, the business of the Blackwell estate creeping into the precious little time he spent at home. One evening, as Emma was putting the triplets to bed, she couldn't help but feel a wave of loneliness wash over her. The nursery, once a shared project filled with laughter and love, now often felt like a silent testament to her solo journey in parenthood. She missed Liam's warmth and partnership, which had become sporadic, his mind always partially elsewhere. The next morning, Emma addressed her concerns. Liam, in the midst of preparing for a business trip, seemed surprised by her distress. "I'm doing all this for us, for our future," he explained, his tone a mixture of frustration and defensiveness. "I know you are, but we need you here, with us, not just financially, but physically and emotionally," Emma replied, her voice steady, but filled with emotion. "The kids ask about you, Liam. They notice your absence." Liam paused, the weight of her words sinking in. He realized how much he had allowed his professional obligations to overshadow his family life. Guilt washed over him as he remembered the promises he made during their vow renewal, promises of prioritizing their family. "I'm sorry, Emma. I didn't realize how much I've been missing," Liam admitted, his resolve firming. "I'll make some changes. I'll talk to my mother about reducing my responsibilities at the estate." True to his word, Liam began to renegotiate his role within the family business, seeking a balance that allowed him more time at home. It was a challenging process, with Mrs. Blackwell pushing back, but Liam's determination was fueled by his commitment to Emma and their children. As Liam became more present, the dynamic in their home slowly shifted. He re-engaged with the triplets, his newfound commitment bringing a sense of completeness to their family that had been missing. Emma felt her resentment thaw, replaced by the rekindling of their partnership. Together, they attended school functions, organized family outings, and even started a weekend tradition of exploring local parks. These moments, simple yet significant, stitched back the fabric of their relationship, each shared experience a reaffirmation of their mutual dedication. Through these efforts, Emma and Liam rediscovered the joy of their togetherness, learning anew that the strength of their bond was not just in enduring challenges, but in facing them together, hand in hand. As Emma and Liam rebuilt their connection and found new rhythms in managing family and work, a new challenge emerged that tested their resilience once again. Liam was required to take a critical business trip overseas, a pivotal opportunity to secure a partnership that could significantly benefit the Blackwell enterprise. The timing, however, was less than ideal. The triplets were approaching their second birthday, and Emma was organizing a small family gathering to celebrate. The night before his departure, Liam and Emma discussed the implications of his absence. "It's only for 3 weeks," Liam reassured her, sensing her apprehension. "I'll be back in time for the party, I promise." Emma nodded, trying to mask her disappointment. "I know it's important, Liam. Just promise me you'll call every day." "Every day," Liam affirmed, pulling her into a hug. The decision was tough on both of them, but they understood the necessity. Liam left the next morning, his heart heavy with the dual burden of professional duty and personal longing. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind for Emma. Balancing her part-time consulting work with caring for the triplets was exhausting without Liam's support. She counted down the days to his return, each evening crossing off another date on the calendar in the kitchen. However, just a week before Liam's scheduled return, Emma faced an unexpected crisis. While playing with the children in the backyard, she slipped on a toy and twisted her ankle. The pain was sharp, and her mobility was significantly reduced. After a visit to the doctor, she was advised to minimize walking and given a brace to wear. The timing couldn't have been worse. With Liam away and her own mobility hampered, Emma felt overwhelmed. Her mother, who lived nearby, stepped in to help, but the stress of managing her injury and the upcoming birthday celebration was immense. Liam, informed about the accident, felt helpless and frustrated by his inability to be there for her. His calls became more frequent, each conversation a mix of encouragement and shared frustration over the distance separating them. Despite the challenges, Emma was determined to make the triplets' birthday special. She delegated some tasks to her mother and hired a local event planner to handle the party details. Her focus was on creating a joyful day for her children, even if it meant pushing through her own discomfort. The day of the party arrived, and the backyard was transformed into a vibrant play area with balloons, games, and a small petting zoo. The triplets were ecstatic, their laughter and excitement filling the air. Emma, watching from a decorated chair with her ankle propped up, felt a surge of pride and relief. The day was perfect, a testament to her resolve and the support of her family. Liam returned the next day, his heart full of regret for missing the celebration but overflowing with love as he watched video clips of the party. He scooped up the triplets in his arms, each hug a balm to his aching heart. That evening, as the children slept, Liam and Emma talked long into the night. They shared their fears, their disappointments, and their hopes. It was a reaffirmation of their commitment to each other and to their family, a promise to face future challenges together, with open hearts and unwavering support. Despite the joyous return of Liam and the successful birthday celebration, Emma's injury lingered more stubbornly than expected. The sprained ankle healed slowly, complicating her daily routines and exacerbating her sense of isolation. With Liam back at work, the days grew long and solitary, filled with the ceaseless demands of caring for 3 energetic toddlers. The physical limitation of her injury made Emma acutely aware of how much she had come to rely on Liam's presence. His recent trip, while successful, reminded her of the delicate balance they had struck between his career responsibilities and their family needs. Emma felt a growing disconnect, not just from Liam, but from her own sense of independence. The confines of her home began to feel more like a cage than a sanctuary. As weeks turned into months, Emma's frustration turned inward, manifesting as a persistent feeling of inadequacy. She began to doubt her ability to handle the pressures of motherhood without constant support. Her days were a blur of meals, naps, and playtimes, punctuated by brief, often distracted calls from Liam, whose work increasingly reclaimed his time. The physical pain from her ankle gradually subsided, but it was replaced by a deeper, more insidious kind of pain, a feeling of being trapped in a life she hadn't entirely chosen. Emma's vibrant personality, once buoyed by ambitions and dreams, now seemed tethered by endless responsibilities and limited mobility. It was during this challenging period that Emma fell ill. At first, she dismissed it as a seasonal flu, but her condition worsened rapidly. One evening, she collapsed in the kitchen, alone with the children. Her last desperate act was to phone her neighbor before succumbing to unconsciousness. The neighbor, reacting swiftly, called emergency services and looked after the triplets until Liam could rush home. At the hospital, Emma was diagnosed with a severe case of pneumonia, exacerbated by her rundown condition and stress. The doctors were clear. Her physical health had suffered due to her neglecting her own needs in favor of caring for her family. Liam was shaken to his core. Seeing Emma, usually so full of life, now pale and frail in the hospital bed, was a stark wake-up call. He realized how much he had been asking of her, expecting her to manage alone while he was absorbed with work. The guilt was overwhelming. During Emma's hospital stay, Liam took a leave from work to care for the triplets and reflect on his priorities. Those days were eye-opening. He experienced firsthand the relentless, exhausting rhythm of daily childcare, gaining a new appreciation for the sheer magnitude of Emma's daily contributions to their family. When Emma was finally ready to come home, Liam was there to meet her, not just as her husband but as her partner, fully committed to sharing the burdens and joys of parenting. He had arranged for additional help, a part-time nanny, and promised a more flexible work schedule. Emma's recovery was slow, but with Liam's renewed support, she began to regain not only her health, but also her spirit. The experience had shifted something fundamental in their relationship. They had confronted their vulnerabilities and emerged more united. more understanding of each other's needs. Together, they navigated the complex terrain of their changed family dynamics, reaffirming their commitment not just to their children but to each other as equals, partners who would share the load, come what may. As Emma gradually regained her strength, the experience of her illness and recovery became a profound turning point for both her and Liam. They realized that maintaining a healthy family dynamic required more than just love. It demanded a balanced partnership where both could thrive, not just in their roles as parents, but as individuals with their own needs and aspirations. Motivated by this realization, Emma and Liam began to actively reshape their lives to ensure both had the support and space to pursue personal growth alongside their responsibilities at home. Liam reduced his hours at work, negotiating with his company to allow more flexibility. He started working from home several days a week, which not only helped share the childcare burden, but also strengthened his bond with the triplets. Emma, feeling rejuvenated by Liam's commitment and her recovering health, decided to re-engage with her professional interests. She resumed part-time consulting, which she could do from home. This work brought her a sense of fulfillment and intellectual engagement that she had missed deeply. It also provided a practical example for their children about the importance of balancing family life with personal development and professional ambitions. Together, they implemented family routines that allowed them to spend quality time together. Mornings were often hectic, but they made it a point to have breakfast as a family, discussing their plans for the day and any highlights or challenges they might face. Evenings were reserved for family activities, from reading stories to playing in the backyard, ensuring they ended each day as a unit. Weekends were special. They dedicated this time to family outings, exploring local parks, museums, or just having picnics. These outings became cherished rituals, times when they could step away from the routine of daily life and simply enjoy being together. As the triplets grew, Emma and Liam encouraged them to develop their interests, enrolling them in various activities like music, sports, and art classes. This not only helped the children develop their talents and social skills, but also taught them the importance of commitment and personal effort. However, life always brings new challenges, and as the children approached school age, Emma and Liam faced the decision of choosing the right educational path for them. They wanted a school that would nurture their children's individual talents while providing a supportive and inclusive environment. After much research and discussion, they settled on a local Montessori school, known for its progressive approach and emphasis on developing independent, confident learners. The decision was a significant one, symbolizing their commitment to supporting their children's education and personal growth according to the values they cherished. The process of choosing the school reinforced the importance of communication and joint decision-making in their relationship. They attended school meetings and events together, showing a united front and a shared interest in their children's education. As Emma and Liam navigated these developments, they found that their renewed commitment to each other and their family deepened their connection. They had learned that adaptation and mutual support were key to overcoming obstacles. Their journey was not without its ups and downs, but each challenge was met with a spirit of cooperation and a deeper understanding of each other's perspectives. As the triplets transitioned into their school years, Emma and Liam found themselves facing a new set of challenges and opportunities that tested their adaptability and reaffirmed their commitment to their family values. The Montessori school they chose for their children proved to be a nurturing environment that encouraged independence and curiosity, aligning well with their parenting philosophy. The triplets, each with their unique personality and interests, thrived in this environment. Mia, the most outgoing of the three, quickly took to the arts, showing a keen interest in painting and drama. Ethan, thoughtful and meticulous, gravitated towards puzzles and math, often found deeply engrossed in building blocks or number games. Olivia, with her gentle demeanor, developed a love for nature and animals, frequently leading her parents to weekend visits to local farms or nature reserves. For Emma and Liam, the children's diverse interests meant more than just logistical planning for various activities. It represented a deeper understanding of nurturing individuality while fostering a sense of family unity. They made it a point to support each child's endeavors equally, attending recitals, sports events, and science fairs with enthusiastic involvement. However, balancing work, personal time, and the children's increasingly complex schedules was not without its stresses. Emma, now fully immersed in her consulting work, found herself juggling deadlines alongside school runs and parent-teacher meetings. Liam, although more present at home, still faced pressures from the family business, particularly as his role in the company grew. The couple's ability to communicate and support each other was crucial. They held regular family meetings where each member, including the children, could share their thoughts, concerns, and achievements. These meetings helped maintain an open line of communication and ensured that everyone felt heard and valued. One particular challenge arose when Ethan began struggling with social interactions at school. His introverted nature made it difficult for him to make friends, and he often felt left out during group activities. Concerned, Emma and Liam worked closely with his teachers to find strategies to help him develop his social skills. They also encouraged him in activities like chess and robotics, where he found like-minded peers. As the children grew, so did their need for individual space and independence. Recognizing this, Emma and Liam adapted their parenting style to allow more freedom within boundaries. They taught the triplets about responsibility, such as managing a small weekly allowance or taking care of their personal spaces and belongings. Throughout these years, Emma and Liam continued to prioritize their relationship, understanding that a strong partnership formed the foundation of their family's happiness. They ensured regular date nights and occasional weekends away, trusting the children in the capable hands of their beloved nanny or grandparents. As the triplets approached their teenage years, Emma and Liam faced new parenting frontiers with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. They knew that adolescence would bring its own set of challenges, navigating digital life, friendships, and academic pressures. However, they felt prepared to handle these with the same principles that had guided them so far: open communication, mutual respect, and unconditional love. Together, they looked forward to seeing their children grow into independent individuals, guided by the values they had instilled. Each step forward was a testament to their journey, a family narrative woven through shared experiences and individual stories, unfolding under the umbrella of love and mutual respect.